moments to get on. We'll go ahead and start our song. It's called Mark of the Beast. Shadows creep across the land, whispers in the wire. Systems rise to chain the soul, feeding on desire. They promise peace if you comply, bow down, fade away. But the word rings clear through the noise, don't take the mark that day. Right hand to forehead, sealed in deceit. No buying, no selling without their beat. Revelation 13, 16, 17. Mark of the beast, coming for the lost, but I won't bow no matter what the cost. I'll stand with the Lamb whose blood was shed, book of life written. No fear of the dead, resist the devil, he'll flee from the fight. Worship the King, hold to the light. Mark of the beast, I see through the lie. With the Lord, I'll never comply. World's pushing hard in its final hours. Lies on screens, twisting truth to power. They demand your soul for a place in line, but my allegiance is to the one divine. No compromise when the pressure mounts high. I'll take the narrow road even if I die. Mark of the beast, coming for the lost, but I won't bow no matter what the cost. I stand with the Lamb whose blood was shed, book of life written. No fear of the dead, resist the devil, he'll flee from the fight. Worship the King, hold to the light. Mark of the beast, I see through the lie. With the Lord, I'll never comply. Here is wisdom, count the number of truth, which means rebellion. Okay, let's start this over, y'all. But the faithful endure. Sealed by grace, no wrath for those who seek his face. When the beast demands worship and control, I lift my voice. Jesus saves my soul. Stand firm to the end, armored complete. Victory's coming, feel the heat. Mark of the beast, try to steal the crown, but I'm standing ground. Won't back down with the Lamb who was slain from the start. His name on my heart, tearing chains apart. No mark on this hand, no seal on this head. Only the blood of Jesus instead. Mark of the beast, I refuse to call. Lord, I'm yours. Welcome, everybody. Through it all, no mark, no mark. Stand firm, worship the Lamb. No retreat, no surrender. We stand with the Lamb.
Yes. There's no rock.
Praise God.
There's no rock like the Lamb of God.
Amen. Well, tonight we're going to start off with some news that we found out. It's about the AI shopping carts. I don't know if any of y'all heard of that. Let's start off with this one. Just a second.
Grocery store cashiers as we know it. And why do I say that? Because grocery stores all across America are starting to roll out these brand new AI shopping carts. And one thing is for sure, it's not just AI. It's got cameras all over it, and it's watching every single thing that you do in the grocery store. Have a look at these smart carts, these AI shopping carts. You get your coupons. You get to sign in with your exclusive shopping pass. And then you have cameras in the front, the back, and the side. So this thing basically knows every aisle you walk down, every single item you pick up. And it's also keeping track of your trends. So if you do try to, let's say, pocket something by accident, accident of course, it's going to have a picture of your face because it's recording every single thing that you do inside of a supermarket. And these carts are already in ShopRites and Kroger's and other supermarket chains across the United States. And Instacart is responsible for everything that you're seeing right now. So basically, the need for employees in a supermarket may be coming to an end because the advertisements will be popping up on the screens as well. And also when the shelves are getting empty, that's where the other AI little guy that walks around, the robot thing, will start telling them that they need to replenish the shelves. So once again, the scary question you ask yourself about this technology. Yes, technology is great. Yes, technology is amazing. But these things are recording. And what exactly are they recording? Is it your face, your body, your hands, your movements? And who is able to see the video? And how long is it being kept by these grocery store companies? That is definitely a question for Instacart to answer. So let me know your thoughts on this technology. Are you okay with a shopping cart recording everything that you do and keeping tabs on you? This company got caught doing what? Whole Foods is officially rolling out dash carts, shopping carts.
It seems good, They want to make everything look good. See, first they came out with these self checkouts, and you know everybody loves doing that, which is that's only natural, liking to check out your own groceries. But I had no idea that it was going to lead to more and more. So it's really not good. I mean, and people are. There was even a guy, on the news I seen, he was saying, something like, either it was he was using the word either cool or something, or I don't know, but we don't even like to use the word cool. But anyway, it's not cool, and it's not good,
Right. When everything is smart, smartphones, smart carts, smart TVs. Um, I have to say this: it looks like just like they had stores that have the word "mart" in it. Okay, that means to shop, and they put a letter or a short word in front of "mart." What's the S for? Could it be Satan's mart? Satan's store? Satan's phone? He's the God of this world. We can't forget. Technology has a mask. It's something that is quicker, faster, but there's always a cost we have to pay.
Right. Equipped with iPads and multiple cameras to fully automate your grocery trip. Most people have no idea this is legal, but they are essentially turning the grocery store into a high-tech surveillance zone where you never have to speak to a single human being. They always try to frame it as seamless and efficient, but if you follow the money, you'll see it's about cutting labor costs and gathering even more data on your habits. This is the difference between a community hub where you know your grocer and a dystopian Amazon warehouse where you're just a data point. Honestly, it's an emotional admission to realize that the more we automate our food, the less we care about where it comes from. So let's go to the next one.
Right. Too much lab grown stuff.
Definitely. Just a second, y'all. Let me go to this one here. So this one here, they're saying people are freaking out after seeing it.
There are millions of people that work at grocery stores. This could cut a lot of people's jobs. This is serious.
I'm here at a Walmart and I want to show you the electronic pricing tags that can change prices based on surge pricing. GTA 6 will have no physical copy and the price has been announced.
Not only are they charging for a feature that should be free because it came with the car, but they're also cheating you out of what they originally said that they would get.
At this point, it's not even just the Bible readers and the conspiracy theorists. Everybody is starting to notice that something weird is going on. What's happening at these grocery stores is completely dystopian. Nobody wants this, and they're still moving forward with it. It's just getting completely ridiculous. People are fed up, and if you have read the last book of the Bible, it's pretty easy to see where this is all going.
You've heard of smartphones, smartwatches, and smart TVs. Well, you can now add smart carts to the list as Kroger rolls out its new digital shopping carts. Aaron Rolfs shows us Kroger's newest experiment with in-store technology. Digital shopping carts that ring up your purchase as you go.
We found sweet potatoes, told the cart what we were doing, and then you put it right into the base, and it weighs it, and the little avocado will tell you how much it weighs.
I mean, how dystopian is this getting? Do people really want cameras facing them the entire time that they're shopping? Because that's exactly what these do. These are smart shopping carts that supposedly make grocery shopping so much quicker and easier, like they say every single time. It's either quick and easy or more safe, and that is how they put into place these laws, these different things like these carts, these dystopian technologies. That is always how they advance these types of things. So you've got multiple cameras on these carts, and you just grab the product and put it right into your cart, and you can skip the checkout line. It's so fast and so amazing. Well, what about when these are the only carts that exist and you say the wrong thing online and now your cart won't let you check out? People think that that's not where this is going, but it definitely is. Cincinnati-based Kroger are among some of the first retailers to also develop and to deploy these new artificial intelligence digital carts, which are actually designed by Google. It says in this article from supermarketnews.com that other brands are using this new Gemini Enterprise for CX tools, including Lowe's Home Improvement and Papa John's. And for the people who are just going to say, I don't want that cart, I don't want to use it at all, I don't want this digital dystopian future that is being implemented anywhere, well, then they just come out and say, well, we'll just price tags then for those types of people.
If you shop at Walmart, you'll want to listen to this because how you see how much things cost is changing.
So Walmart says that it is starting to install digital labels on store shelves.
Yeah, they're saying it expects the technology to be in all stores in the United States by the end of the year. What's up, America? I'm here at a Walmart, and I want to show you the electronic pricing tags that can change prices based on surge pricing. So as you know, a lot of places are starting to replace actual paper tags with digital tags. Here at the Walmart by me, they're doing that now. So let me show you what these look like and let me show you the difference. So here's a digital tag. These prices can change at a moment's notice, and they do throughout the day. Every single one has been changed to a digital tag, so these prices will go up 3 or 5 cents depending on what time of day it is, and they'll go up when more people are here shopping, and they'll go down when fewer people are here. So let me show you the difference. Here's an actual tag, and then here's the digital tag. See, they look identical, but this one is a digital tag. You can even scan it and change it, or it'll change depending on if they program it. And this is the paper tag, and this is on every single one almost. And you can see here behind the glass. So this is happening at every Walmart across the country, and this will be happening at every grocery store across the country at some point. They can literally take these prices and change them up and down a couple of cents throughout the day and make millions. And then they'll incrementally raise them so it'll always be higher. See, look at these prices. These prices are indicating that they've raised them and lowered them slightly throughout the day, and they have. There's videos online showing these prices changing, and they're also planning on using your phone data to change the prices as you're perusing the products. That's not happening now, but that's coming in the future. So a price just for you for profit personally.
Everyone walking around has a cell phone, right? And this can be pinged, and a lot of information can be given from it just from the Wi-Fi in these different buildings. So just imagine you say the wrong things online, you vote the wrong way, you don't get a certain shot, you don't want to put something on your face, then you start walking around the store, and maybe you see even a price hike on some of these tags. You get an extra 10% on top of your prices because you're not following the rules. Or maybe if you really don't want to follow the rules and you've been blacklisted, then when you walk up to the different things in the store, the price tag says, not eligible, you can't shop here. People think that type of thing couldn't happen, but the book of Revelation tells us one day it definitely will. If you're not making $150,000 per year, but you'd like to, I strongly encourage.
Well, welcome everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. A lot of crazy stuff going on. And really it's all, about the mark of the beast. That's what it's all about.
And we have
Control.
we have a leader that brought it in quicker.
So let's get into this other news here.
Okay, Leslie, thank you. Overseas now to the growing desperation in Venezuela as the death toll soars from those back-to-back major earthquakes. More than 1,400 people have died. Tens of thousands are missing. Rescue teams from around the world, including the U.S., are now arriving with much-needed aid. Here's ABC's Marcus Moore.
Tonight, as the death toll surges past 1,400 people, U.S. search and rescue teams are on the ground in Venezuela, arriving with special equipment as the urgent race to find survivors in the midst of a catastrophe approaches its 4th day. In the hard-hit area of La Guaira, north of Caracas, a hellscape with entire buildings collapsed into towering piles of rubble. The U.S. sending a combat ship, CH-47 Chinook helicopters, MV-22 Ospreys, and a C-17 Globemaster, along with satellite equipment to assess the need on the ground. U.S. rescue teams also bringing search dogs to look for survivors. Simon Medina saying he brought gloves and a shovel to search for his very own mother and brother, adding that they go forward with faith. More than 1,400 people have been killed and more than double that injured. And according to a UN official, some 55,000 people are said to be Freelance journalist Clavel Rangel in hard-hit Caracas describes the scene there.
Just a few minutes ago, 3 young relatives arrived after being called to immediate help to identify the body of a loved one. The uncertainty and pain on their faces for me captured the human cause of this disaster.
When Wednesday's back-to-back earthquakes, magnitude 7.2 and 7.5, striking Venezuela when the country was already facing a humanitarian crisis, with millions food insecure and lacking medicine and other supplies. In Miami, people answering the call for help, donating food and essentials.
We live very far, but our heart is with our country, with our people.
With people banding together to help survivors and their families there in Venezuela, and this rescue effort is facing an ongoing threat. There have been more than 400 aftershocks recorded since Wednesday's earthquakes.
Just a desperate situation. Okay, Marcus, thank you. Next tonight, escalating tensions over the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. and Iran exchanging retaliatory strikes, and CENTCOM announcing new strikes just moments ago. This just hours after Iranian officials targeted U.S. military positions, each accusing the other of violating the fragile ceasefire.
I had a feeling it wasn't over with yet.
Selena Way.
Tonight, tensions again flaring over the Strait of Hormuz just a week after the U.S. and Iran made a deal. The U.S. military announcing new strikes on Iran in direct response to continued Iranian aggression against commercial shipping. At President Trump's direction, the U.S. striking military surveillance infrastructure, communication systems, air defense sites, drone storage facilities, and mine lair capabilities. It was in response to an Iranian drone striking a tanker this morning, the second attack on a ship crossing the strait in just days. After the first attack, the U.S. struck Iranian missile and drone storage sites, retaliation for what President Trump called a foolish violation of our ceasefire agreement. But Iran's foreign ministry accusing the U.S. of violating the ceasefire, vowing to defend its sovereignty, security, and national interests with all its might. Bahrain, home to a major U.S. military base, says Iranian drones targeted its territory, accusing Iran of exporting chaos and undermining regional stability. Since the war began, Tehran has repeatedly attacked neighboring Gulf states in retaliation for U.S. and Israeli attacks. That memorandum of understanding Trump signed with Iran is already fraying.
It's also a ceasefire, which, as you pointed out, is always going to be a little messy when you're dealing with the Iranians.
Under that agreement, Iran promised to reopen the strait. Instead, it's been trying to control it, warning ships they could be in danger if they pass the strait without the country's permission.
This settlement check completely changed my life, and it came from a car accident I almost forgot about.
I'm sorry about that, y'all. So we had a feeling that this wasn't over with yet.
Right.
Seeing being discharged from the Persian Gulf of oil. This is your World War III update. The ceasefire is dead. At least that's how it would be interpreted in a world where the belligerents in hostilities actually adhered to the terms of agreements. I don't doubt that the Trump administration is going to come out tomorrow and say all is well, hostilities have ceased, that this was just a little hiccup along the way. But right now, the U.S. is conducting a massive wave of airstrikes across the Strait of Hormuz, and this has effectively rendered the ceasefire null and void. Now, what has happened is there's been multiple attacks back and forth between the IRGC and the U.S. Navy over the past few days. The IRGC is saying that these vessels that are transiting the strait via the Omani route are not doing so in compliance with the terms of the Memorandum of Understanding, and as such, they have targeted multiple vessels, successfully struck two vessels, one of which was one I commented on Thursday, which was the bulk cargo carrier vessel. The one that they just struck last night was a Panama-flagged oil tanker that was carrying 2 million barrels of oil. Okay, now that's very significant. It's significant that they struck an oil tanker, struck it, not just targeted it, but actually struck it. And it's significant that it was carrying such a large amount of oil. Okay, now this is going to be very, very problematic for sustaining the current outflows of oil from the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. is responding in a very heavy-handed fashion. In fact, just today they targeted Iranian military surveillance infrastructure, communication systems, air defense sites,
drone storage facilities and mine layer capabilities in response to the attacks that the Iranians have been conducting on these vessels. So the U.S. has been trying to help smuggle or evacuate these vessels out in terms which are not in compliance with the Memorandum of Understanding via this Omani route that circumvents this series of
So it's a thing where, striking an oil tanker, and it's going to be it's a lot more trouble.
Yes. It looks like, South America, Venezuela, is crumbled under an earthquake. And there's being enough trouble that's stirred up with this war that it almost looks like that's trying to crumble this country and our jobs and our freedom.
That's right.
So you can have an earthquake and you can have a war quake, which doesn't stop.
Right.
It destroys.
And this is, a little bit more of the truth here. Just a second.
I don't understand the West strategy. The reason, if you know anything about my history, I left the establishment in 1998. And one of the reasons I left the establishment was I was absolutely convinced that their plan to build and manage a unipolar empire wouldn't work. They were going to fail. And I didn't understand why they were putting together a plan that was clearly going to be a failure. To me, this looks like a flop. I have an article called Financial Coup d'etat that I wrote about. I think I published the first version in 2006. I was in the city of London at an investment conference in 2000. It was before 9/11. And John Laughlin was giving a presentation about the privatization that was going on in Eastern Europe.
And somebody's asking if we're Republican or Democrat. Well, if we had to, let's just put it this way. We used to be Republican, and we're definitely not Democrat, but we're not Republican anymore either. We're neither one, because now we're only on God's side, because we realize that they're in it together. There's no left and there's no right.
Right. There's Republican or Democrat is misleading understanding of freedoms and reality.
Right.
That is the illusion that you have freedom. If you understand that they have to do this in order to keep you where you're at and not fighting with them.
Right. The left comes in and does something, then the right comes in and does something. The left comes in and does something else, then the right comes in and does something else.
They always act like they're saving each other or their
And
sides.
That's the way it works.
Right. It's never been that they want to give anybody freedom. That's just a way of manipulating things so you don't fight them. You don't go against them.
Sort of the shenanigans that were going on. And then Ann Williamson, who covered Moscow and what was happening in Russia for the Wall Street Journal, and had written a book about it that got suppressed, gave a presentation about the sort of, I'll call it privatization, but sort of the theft of government resources and the creation of the oligarchs in Russia. And then I was giving a paper about a similar process in housing and real estate in the United States. And it was shocking to us because we're basically, and I just come off doing research on the disaster capitalism in South America. And what happened was each one gave a different presentation, and what we realized is, it's the same law firms, it's the same investment banks, it's the same big institutional investors, and they are playing this game around the world. The wall comes down, and they're playing privatization game in the United States, in Eastern Europe. It's the same people. I'll give you a perfect example. In 1998, I was invited to a presentation at a think tank in Washington, and 3 peasant women had come from Bolivia, Peru, and Colombia to talk to Congress about the fact that the war on drugs was not stopping drugs. It was making things worse and doing all these kinds of real estate shenanigans. And I started to ask these women all sorts of questions. And finally, one of them got very suspicious of me, and she looked at me and she said, you know, you say you know nothing of our countries, but from your description, because I was asking them about how they get moved off the land and then who picks up the real estate cheap and then who gets the government contracts to redevelop real estate. You know, same game as we're seeing in Gaza now. And everybody makes money on the gentrification or genocide of people and making big money on the real estate. So she said, Senorita, you say you know nothing about our country, but from your questions, you know everything about our country. You know, who are you? And I said, I know nothing about your country, but I was Assistant Secretary of Housing, and I know how they do it in the United States. And apparently, it works the same way in your country as it works in our country. And it wasn't until later on in the conversation I discovered that the contractor they were using for the war on drugs through the U.S. agencies was the same contractor who was running enforcement, a lot of the shenanigans for one of the enforcement groups at the Department of Housing and Urban Development in the United States. It was like, okay, it's the same players, and they're doing it everywhere around the world. We need to connect the dots. So we just published a plunder issue, and the subtitle was See the Game, Change the Game. Because first you got to see the game. Look at the peace board and the redevelopment plan for Gaza. You know, you had Wyckoff and Kushner were on CBS bragging about the plan and the fact that they had it had been prepared and ready to go 2 years ago. It's like, okay, you're saying the redevelopment plan was available and ready before October 7th, 2023, really? And it was funny, Wyckoff said that, and Kushner looked like he was squirming terribly in his seat. It's pretty funny. So the way I look at the world, because my understanding of the world is based on when I worked in Washington Street, kind of seeing how things worked. In my experience, you scale up through a committee system, and there are real factions, and there's real competition over real resources. But at the end of the day, at the top, it's one pot of money, and the bankers are always on both sides. That's why the institution of the architecture in Iran or in the Ukraine or Gaza, or, you know, they're trying to do it everywhere in the world. You know, that architecture needs to get embedded everywhere, and that's why everybody are embedding it, and they're all fighting about who's going to control the control grid in their country or their region or their section. But everybody seems to agree with Mr. Global, oh, we're going to implement this control grid. So if you have sovereign nations that have subsections, municipalities and counties, what we've done is rather than directly try and change them, we've layered all these organizations on top, like the WTO or like the World Health Organization, and created sovereign immunity or various kinds of immunity in all these organizations. And what we've been able to do is constantly enforce rules at the bottom because of these organizations, but the folks at the bottom can't do anything because there's no direct line between their governance chain of command and those sort of international organizations. They're too big and too far away. And, you know, part of this has been treaty agreements where we agreed to a treaty and then enforce it on the local guys. And in fact, it's really not legal, but the local guys have never been able to stop it or turn it around.
So,
right, a treaty is just to take away all freedom. It's just take away the rules we have here and replace them with their rules. The WTO, World Trade Organization, the WHO, World Health Organization, they have treaties, they call it. And they go in the country and get them to sign it, the leaders. They take over the country. And the UN is the head of that.
and you know, they mentioned Kushner on here, and Kushner has been, you know, involved in some things, seems like, you know, peace treaty, things like that.
It's nothing about peace. And him being in it tells you that there's something really evil behind this. He seems to be somebody that's there and a nobody, but yet he's somebody.
So, and here's one, here's a video on America. Hang on a second. Is about to collapse. People are reaching their breaking point. So y'all take a listen to this.
Economist is setting out a new warning. Warning. Moody's top economist is setting out a new warning that we are in a high risk of a recession. However, I want to remind everyone that we will be in a recession. We will notice it before it is announced. In fact, it could be announced 6 months later, 8 months later. But the writing is on the wall. If you did not know, Iran pulled out of the peace deal. And so that means we are still in danger of an oil shortage in the next 3 or 4 weeks, according to Trump, Chevron, Exxon. They're all warning us that we are depleting our oil reserve. Of course, we all know that inflation went up in May to 4.2%, and PPI went up to 6.5%. All of those signal that our economy is collapsing every single day, meaning more layoffs, more job loss, which will mean less economic activity, which means less money in the economy. It's really a snowball effect. In danger of stagflation, which means high unemployment, no job growth, and inflation. If you did not also know, the new Fed just the other day, not only did he say no reducing of interest rates, but likely a rate hike is coming, which will mean higher credit card interest payments for you, higher auto interest rates. If you want to buy a home, the mortgage rate will go up. All of that costs you more money to live when Americans are already struggling. To ask you, when is enough enough?
Insane. The economists are sounding the alarm, but people checking, their bank accounts and their grocery bills are already knowing what's coming. Yeah, they've been aware for quite a little bit now. We all have. The ones that are tapped in, we know. They're living it currently right now. I mean, by the time they officially call it a recession, most of us will have been living it for months at that point. So, no real surprise, but just keep it in mind. If you haven't already, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's get in.
I wonder when the U.S. economy is going to collapse. Housing, food, and gas is all at an all-time high. The median age for a first-time home buyer is 40 years old. We have people graduating college and high school every single year, and they can't find a job because the job market's terrible. Prices of things and inflation's only getting worse, too, so there's a pretty good chance that my generation and younger generations are never going to be able to afford a home.
Isn't that absolutely insane? When the median first-time home buyer
Yes, all
is about 40
absolutely
years
insane.
old.
Yes, it is.
The prices are outrageous.
Right. And they say, when is enough enough? Well, you got to consider the bankers. That is the love of money. So if you look back on history, there was the richest man in the world at one time. His name was Rockefeller. And they asked him, "Sir, you're the richest man in the world. When is enough money enough?" He said, "One more dollar." So see, that's where they're at. They will not be satisfied until they get one more dollar when you don't have any. They want every dollar. So everyone should get prepared, because when it gets that money hungry, there's no help for people. You get prepared.
Right. Spiritually first,
Yes.
then physically. Because in the Bible, God even told Noah to build an ark
Oh yes.
for him and his family. So if he'll tell Noah to build an ark, what will he tell us to do?
We have to have a safe place. We have to have a place we feel security. We have to have a place for that.
this was about
Warning.
this was about a plane that crashed into, I think it was Beijing's tallest skyscraper. That's what it is. China plane crash, it says. Aircraft crashes into Beijing's tallest skyscraper. That's what that was about. Well, y'all, there's a lot going on right now. A lot.
Yes.
You know, I've never, I don't remember ever seeing such, you know, such horrible things happening on the news, you know, so much, you know, all the fires and the plane crashes and
It says in the Bible.
the floods and
It's so horrible. It says it in the Bible, though. There'll be so much tribulation as there was never before or never shall be again.
that's right.
And it says men's hearts will fail them for the trouble they see. That's pretty bad.
That's right. $20-something years. Okay, let's see. Well, I think that's all we have for y'all tonight. Until next time, Two Lamps Last Hour Bible News.